The Lord be with you. A reading from the Holy Gospel according to John. There was a wedding here in Cana in Galilee, and the mother of Jesus was here. Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the wedding. When the wine ran short, the mother of Jesus said to him, "They have no wine." And Jesus said to her, "Woman, how does your concern affect me? My hour is not yet come." His mother said to the servers, "Do whatever he tells you." Now there were 6 stone jars there for Jewish ceremonial washings, each holding 20 to 30 gallons. Jesus told them, fill the jars with water." So they filled them to the brim. Then he told them, "Draw some out now, and take it to the head waiter." So they took it. And when the head waiter tasted the water that had become wine, without knowing where it came from, although the servers who had drawn the water knew, the head waiter called the bridegroom and said to him, "Everyone serves good wine first, and then, when people have drunk freely, an inferior one. But you have kept the good wine until now." Jesus did this as the beginning of his signs here in Cana in Galilee, and so revealed his glory, and his disciples began to believe in him. After this, he and his mother, his brothers, and his disciples went down to Capernaum and stayed there only a few days. The Gospel of the Lord. Praised be Jesus and Mary. Here at Cana, Jesus attended a marriage to bless marriage, to make marriage a sacrament. This was a message very important to the early church. Certainly, John transmits this message for the sake of public revelation, but in the early church, there were Gnostics. There were people who did not follow the apostolic faith, but their own ideas. They were blending pagan ideas and Greek ideas with the gospel, and so they had this idea that matter was evil, and so marriage would therefore be evil, and had this sort of exaggerated sort of asceticism that denied the value of marriage. And so it was important to recall that Jesus had blessed marriage. Jesus himself had attended a marriage. Jesus himself had blessed wine, a material good. Had created by a miracle wine for people to drink. So matter is not evil. The weddings, marriage is not evil. But these are good things that God has created, which sometimes we use badly, but they are in themselves good. And indeed, by making marriage a sacrament, he makes it even a source of grace for us. So Jesus came to perfect the law, as we know, and there was an imperfection regarding marriage. Moses had permitted divorce because of the hardness of heart of the Jews. But it was not that way in the beginning. And so the first reading tells us what it was like in the beginning, when God created marriage as he created human nature. Man should have a helpmate. It is not good for the man to be alone. I will make a helper suited to him, said God. This explanation, and then comes the creation of a whole series of animals, the creation of all the animals. But none of these are a suitable companion for man. These are all inferior beings. It must be someone of equal dignity to man. It must be someone who is bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh. One of the fathers of the church points out that by taking, if God had only taken flesh from the man, perhaps the woman would have been too weak. So he takes bone so that the woman can be a strong woman, a strong helpmate for the man. Can be strong as he is strong, can be bone of his bone and flesh of his flesh, of the same nature, and therefore of the same dignity. And so marriage is a gift from God. Marriage is not something that we invented for our convenience, the way we invented various sorts of contracts. And because of this, civil society which did not create marriage, cannot reinvent marriage. And this is, the two become one flesh. They become one human existence. What God has joined, man cannot separate. And so, a divorce, while it changes the civil status of the couple, it doesn't eliminate the bond of marriage. And that's why today, as we look what we can do for people who have divorced and remarried, admitting them to communion isn't really a possibility. They aren't excluded from the church. They can still come to Mass. They should still come to Mass. But they can't receive communion so long as they're living together with a person who is not their spouse in God's eyes. So, in the beginning, there was no divorce. In the beginning, this is how God created marriage: one man, one woman, for life. But over the years, marriage was distorted in many ways. And the first thing that happened to it was original sin, and that distorted the relation between husband and wife. The wife is supposed to be subordinate to the husband, but this isn't supposed to be like a slavery for her. She isn't supposed to be treated like property, as if she were an animal. But when sin enters the picture, then the dominion of the man becomes a harsh dominion, and so this is what Eve is told after the original sin, that being subject to the husband will become a hard thing for her. And another disorder that developed is polygamy, that men would take more than one wife, at least if they were wealthy enough to do so. And so some other men would be left without any possibility to find a wife. And then divorce, another disorder, that instead of, while marriage is supposed to be for life, then there were people who would say, no, I'm tired of this wife, I'm going to go find myself another. And as I said, Moses permitted this because of the hardness of heart of the Jews. And we're told by that what that means is that if they were so hard-hearted that there was a real risk that they would kill their wives in order to get rid of them. And so, in order to prevent that very great evil, divorce was permitted as a lesser evil. But divorce was never, even in the Old Testament, seen as a good thing. The prophets spoke against divorce. And then Jesus comes. By Jesus' time, polygamy was not really being practiced by the Jews. And so the main disorder that he has to, of course he comes to remedy original sin by baptism, by restoring grace to us. He makes Mary the Immaculate Conception to remind us of the dignity of woman. And he abolishes divorce to restore marriage to the way that it was in the beginning. So now there is no more divorce. And then he does another thing. And here in the Gospel, at least, we associate it with the Gospel. We know that he made marriage a sacrament. And we think that he did that when he came here to Cana in Galilee, when his mother was invited to a wedding. We saw how close Nazareth is to here, so probably some relatives or friends of Our Lady invited her to this wedding, and Jesus and his disciples were also invited to the wedding since Our Lady was coming. And here, Jesus raises marriage to be a sacrament. Marriage, which is already part of creation, part of the natural order established by God, now becomes also part of the supernatural order. It's the only sacrament which is something that was pre-existing that's then raised to the level of a sacrament. All the other sacraments are something new. And so marriage is a very special sacrament in this way. Any time two baptized Christians marry, and obviously they can only marry once till death does them part, but every true marriage between baptized Christians is a sacrament. And that makes it a sign of the faithfulness of Christ and his church. It makes it a source of sanctifying grace, a way of holiness. And so the spouses really in virtue of the sacrament, receive a mission. They have a mission so that, starting from the simple, ordinary things of daily life, of their married life, they can make visible that love with which Christ loves the Church, and with the love of the Church for Christ, by continuing to give his life for her in fidelity and service. Now, Christ continues to give his life for the Church. The Church continues to serve Christ, and husband and wife are to make this love visible in their marriage. So marriage is a means of grace. It's something which sanctifies the couple, which sanctifies the family. And this is certainly a very good thing, as the family is the foundation of society. But this also means, on the other hand, it raises the stakes for Christian marriage. It means that being unfaithful for Christians is also a sacrilege, being unfaithful to their marriage. But Jesus will help them to be faithful. Jesus will help all you married people to be faithful. And this we see also in the Gospel. Also regarding Jesus, what is said here going back to the first reading, what's said of Adam, of the first Adam, it is not good for the man to be alone. God said also of the second Adam, of Jesus Christ, that it's not good for the man to be alone. He should have a helper suited to him, and that's Our Lady. Our Lady, who begins life without original sin, like Christ began life without original sin, who begins life full of grace, as Christ began life full of grace and truth. And certainly not quite at the level of divinity, but truly a worthy helper for him. God wanted us to have a mother who would notice our needs, as Our Lady notices at the feast that they have no wine. Very often it's the women who are more attentive to little details. They notice things that perhaps men in their broader, more abstract vision overlook. And so Mary notices our needs. Mary's concerned about our needs, and like a mother, she wants to help us. But we must do our part. We must, as she said, do whatever he tells you. Do whatever our Lord commands us. We must live our life according to the commandments. And then we can be sure that we will have her help, that we will have a help which at times can even be miraculous. Certainly providential help. Some of you have experienced a help in your marriages which has been very providential, but sometimes even true miracles happen. And so we thank our Lord for this gift of marriage. We ask that for the gift of faithfulness. We ask for Our Lady to see we ask Our Lady to look upon us, to see our needs, and to present them to the Father. Praise be Jesus and Mary.